Hello. In today's video, we'll be going over the Sheets features in Visual DB. By the end of this tutorial, you'll make a sheet that looks like this. So let's get right into it. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go to our database, and at the bottom, these three different files I have here are different CSVs, or in other words, three different spreadsheets that we have in our database. You can check them out by clicking our data. In this one, this is just the associated values with different hypothetical employees. So an employee might have an ID, and this has the name. Next, we have our projects. We have a project ID and all of the different project titles that are associated with them. And then thirdly, we have our what you would think of when I say spreadsheet. It's all of our different information about different projects that are going on, right? So you can look through this. We'll get more to it later. But yeah, so that's our database. You can import them up here, and we have a bunch of different options there. You can upload them there, and you have a bunch of different options there. But from here, what we're going to do is we're going to go to our query, and the sheet that I showed you earlier is made using this query, but we're going to make it again, right? So let's make a new query, and we're going to do our use query builder, and then we're going to call our query projects underscore query. So just keep in mind, this is the new title of our query. And then we're going to choose our connection, and that's going to be the database that we have. And then we're going to press continue. And then we're going to add a main table. And now what we want for our main table is all the different tasks that we have, right? These two other ones, the employee and project, those are generally used for our available values, where we're going to replace an ID with an actual name. So as our main thing, we're going to have our project tasks with all the different information that we have about our projects. So we're going to add that. And then we can add a related table. So this is where these different things come in. We're going to add everything, but just keep in mind, you can exclude stuff if there's information in here that isn't relevant or you just want to keep out, right? So we're going to add that to our table. So one issue you might run into is we're highlighted over one of the related tables, and if we add to this, there's nothing available because there's no field titles that this has in common with any other data that I have in my database. So I have to select my main table and then add related things to it. And then we already have our projects, so we're going to add our employee information. So we're going to add that to table. And then we're going to press OK because we have all of the different related tables we want. So boom, we have our project spreadsheet. So now we're going to go to our Sheets section. So now we're going to click New Sheet, and then we're going to type in project spreadsheet. And we're going to and then we're going to add our query, and then we're going to use our projects query because that's what we just made. And then boom, we have this. Now this is a far cry from what we did before, which was this. So now how do we get to this? So let's go back to our project spreadsheet. Now let's go over some different features that we can add to make this look a little bit nicer. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to press the settings button, and you'll see here that we have freeze columns. And let's say I make this 1, and then I'm going to click out. Now we see this little line here. So now if I'm going left and right, now the first column is frozen, so I always see it, right? I can move this to be my second column like that, and I can keep both of them, right? Another thing is we can resize different parts of the spreadsheet. So that's very useful. But for the time being, we're just going to set that to 0 and just leave it at that right now because we want to remove some different things and just change the ordering of stuff. So the next thing that I want to do is I want to do groupings, right? And groupings are very useful and can make your sheet look very visually appealing and put stuff in reasonable places, right? So I'm going to group by department. So notice what has happened now. So there are different sections that we have in our sheet now. We have the creative department, and basically every single entry that is related or has the creative department as its department is in this grouping. Notice that in our department section, boom, 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 they're all the same. If we scroll down, we have our engineering department, right? And we can minimize these to make it better. So yeah, that is groupings. The other thing that we can do with groupings is we can group by another field. So let's do it by our project title, right? So now we have group by department and then group by project title. So for this one, let me make this a little bit larger. We have the creative department, and within the creative department, there are 2 project titles, right? There's the new project launch campaign. So that's this field right here. And notice that these are in a different color. Right here, for example, the project ID right here, these are all from your related table, not from the main table. So what we can do now is we have a lot of fields here. We can start removing stuff. So I'm going to remove the project ID because that isn't really necessary because we know what the title is. And then I'm going to remove the department, employee ID, and the name. I'll show you what we'll use that for. But if we want to remove stuff, information that we don't really need, for example, do we really need the task ID? So we can remove our task ID. We can remove the project ID. We can remove that. We can remove the project title because it's already grouped by that. We can remove the department. And if we go out now, notice that we have a lot less. We'll also remove our employee ID and our name because we already have that in our assigned to. These are employee IDs. So I'm going to further hide the employee ID and name. So now we have basically all of the same information we started with, but it's in a significantly smaller sheet now, and it's grouped the way that we want. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my assigned to. Now these are all employee IDs, but I want to make them actual names. So how do I do that? So because I gave a related table where it had the associated names to employee IDs, now I can go here and replace them with names. So I'm going to press OK to that. And now we see here these employee IDs, even though they're stored as numbers, now they show up as names because we gave the related table and we can replace that. So that is very useful. The next thing that we're going to do is, say for example, there's an enumerated states that a project can be in. So we have a status, right? It can be completed, reviewed, in progress, not started, deferred, right? Or it can be canceled down here. So what we can do is we can go to our status, we're going to go to available values again, and then we're going to offer existing values, and then we can color code our values. So if we press that, now it's all nice colors that make it very apparent what state the project is in. We can also do that for our priority. So I'm going to make these available values and color code them. And now we see that we have this color coded as well. So there we go. The next thing that we can do is our estimate. I'm going to set this to none. But what we can do is, say for example, this is like a cost, right? And we want to know what the entire cost of an individual project is estimated to be. We can sum them up, and basically it'll go across the entire sheet and sum everything up. We can do a little bit more complicated equations, but that's for another video. Just be aware that that's a feature that we have. So from here, we have all these different features. And one more thing I want to tell you is that we can move fields around. So it might not make sense to put our description first since there's nothing in there at the moment. Maybe you want to put your assigned to and then your status and then your priority, right? So those are all the different features to make a nice looking spreadsheet in Visual DB. Thank you for listening.